Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Alrighty then, we're back on the Investigative Journal, last day of the week here on a Friday, and it's September 15th, 2017, day on our calendar. Of course, I'm Greg Anthony here, and boy, what a jam-packed show. It's going to be all about the Vatican today, and you won't believe some of the things that are going on. We'll get to that in a second, but I did want to mention that Hurricane Jose, the third hurricane that's going to most likely, now I'm not going to predict this, but it's a strange pattern, and I watched this video just today, and a guy took a real close-up of what they're doing, how they're cloud bursting this thing, and it's an amazing story, and this thing is just doing circles now, and if you believe Pet Goat 2 and the analysis I did yesterday, you know, there could be 3 hurricanes and a nuke attack. And the Rothschilds, one of the Rothschilds was quoted recently as saying, "Our new world order will be a reality in 2018. So this year could be, remember what I told you about this year? I had this feeling at Christmas of last year that this was going to be a strange year, and it sure has been personally for me, and I call it the year of death. It's crazy. But anyway, I want to get back all about the Vatican today on this Friday, so let's get right to it. You won't believe what the Vatican and UNICEF are all about. I mean, this is incredible, shocking what Pope and UNICEF are doing to our children. And you got to look at this. The Pope and UNICEF are preparing the world and through our children for a false alien invasion, or at least an alien landing of some sort. And you have to know that UNICEF has an agreement with an organization of the Vatican called Scholas Occurrentes Initiative. This organization, founded by Pope Francis, is sponsoring UNICEF in an attempt to change the way children are educated. This UNICEF alien video they just put out is not only evidence that there is a direct link between UNICEF and the Vatican, but it suggests that behind the scenes the Vatican is part of the United Nations' secret initiative to prepare the human race to accept alien visitors, with the ultimate goal to integrate these alien visitors into human society, reports exopolitics.org. The text in the description box below the video, released on the Facebook page of UNICEF Chile, is clear, and it's shocking. Knowing someone else is a great opportunity to live valuable experiences. Say yes to integration. Now, you got to go. I'm going to put this to YouTube up, or I did yesterday, and you can go to my website and watch it. But it's this alien kid who definitely looks like an alien. His face is different. He's got little spots on his face, and he definitely is not human. But he has a human body, and he walks into this classroom, and he's treated terribly by the kids. But then they accept him, and he does kind of strange thing. He elevates some kids, does some really weird things. And this is put out by, the Vatican and UNICEF working together. It's a really shocking thing when you think about it, and it's going to be a false alien invasion. When is that going to come? I mean, how many things have they got going now? I mean, I can't keep up with them. I mean, let's go over them. We've had hurricanes galore, and they're making more of them. There's 2 more tropical storms down where Irma was formed that are forming now. Plus Jose. Plus we got the 8.5 earthquake in Mexico. Mexico's now being hit with another tropical storm or hurricane in the Pacific South. That's an incredible story. And then we also, Mexico can't buy a break lately. And then we also have the threat of Yellowstone. The senator coming out, a U.S. senator from Washington, saying that Seattle people should be ready and prepare for a nuclear attack from North Korea. North Korea today saying they're going to destroy and level Japan and America because of the UN sanctions that both of them agreed and voted yes on, sanctions against North Korea. that would restrict oil and other things that will hurt their economy. But I'm sure China will prop them up. So this is all the saber rattling going on. I mean, it's going. That's just some of it. Then, of course, we got the worries about these false flag ISIS attacks. Then we also have bioterrorism. We have the worries about the EMP. They're going to blacken America, and that's what the analysis I did yesterday, or the gentleman with a good eye did yesterday on my show. And then, of course, I put it up on my website, so you can go see Pet Goat 2 again, his analysis of it, which is really good. I put his video up. And also, I restarted my Pet Goat writing contest. So you can write in with me a $25 donation. You can use PayPal on my website. Hit the button. Say it's for you're going to write up an analysis after you watch the video. I Pet Goat 2. I Pet Goat. Pet Goat 2 equals the next 9/11. Yes. And so get in on that contest. And it's only a $25 donation. Keeps the radio show going, and it's for a good cause, as they say. Okay, so all about the Vatican today. And I've got a scandal and also something from a writer by the name of John Rappaport, who just was a friend of Tupper Saucy, as I was. And I interviewed Tupper on my show several times, as well as talked to him many times on the phone before he died. That I believe was 2008 or 9. And so I want to share Rappaport's memories, as well as a few quotes that he puts in from Tupper's book. And he makes some good points. So I want to do that, as well as this scandal going on in Rome. I've got a couple people that contacted me about it. And so let's get right to it before we run out of time. Okay, this is entitled Capozzi Cover-Up. A Capozzi Cover-Up, a massive Vatican scandal. And Elizabeth Yore wrote about it. I've talked about it before on my show through a couple insiders, and I wanted to get into it here because she put together a pretty good piece. But Cardinal Francesco Coco Palmiero, president of the Pontifical Council for Legislative Texts, charged with the interpretation of canon law, is pictured here with his secretary, Monsignor Luigi Capozzi. And how stupid does the Vatican really think we are? Oh, they know. They're slapping it in your face all the time. Now I'll get back to her. She says, the contempt for which they hold the laity now knows no bounds. The people of God are treated like ignorant sheep who are, or on a need-to-know basis. They need to know nothing, she says. Silence the sheep is the cry from the Vatican. Spare us the lame and convenient Bergoglian who am I to judge narrative, lest we forget that our weekly parish collection baskets helps to pay their rent, their meals, their scarlet berettas, their croziers, their episcopal rings, their cars, their luxury apartments, and their parties. Speaking of parties and luxury apartments, despite the Vatican's best efforts to muzzle the Vatican gendarme, Italian media, and the Curia, the infamous Monsignor Luigi Cocaine Capozzi. Remember we talked about this? I had it on my website about a month ago, I think. Secretary to the powerful Cardinal Francesco, positive realities of homosexuals. Coco Palmiero, president of the Pontifical Council for the Interpretation of Legal Texts, was arrested for hosting a raucous, drug-fueled homosexual orgy. Okay, so he's arrested for this homosexual orgy. In the past spring, late into the night, in an exclusive section of the Holy See, a mere recycle bin's throw from Casa Santa Marta, the Pope's residence, a bachelor bender played out in a luxury Vatican-owned apartment. Outside were parked luxury cars with exclusive Città di Vaticano license plates. Upstairs in the apartment, a noisy and tempestuous debauchery raged into the night. The other building residents were disrupted by loud noise, blaring music, and a steady stream of strange males entering Capozzi's fancy digs. As Bergoglio reminds Catholics, the earth is heating up. No doubt with the assistance of Capozzi's flat, which boiled over into a hotbed of naked, drunken, and drugged males. However, the climate changed when the Vatican gendarmes were called to the scene and arrested Capozzi. Such is the state of the Vatican ecosystem under the tutelage of Pope Francis. Thus begins the Capozzi caper, which has generated more silence from the Vatican than a shuttered church. Despite the Vatican's best effort to kill the news of the orgy, the turbulent orgy. Okay, despite the Vatican's best efforts to kill the news of the orgy, it broke out into a story in July. Illicit drugs were flowing and shared so freely, a crime under Vatican criminal code, that Monsignor Capozzi was booked by the police and then taken to Pius XI's clinic to detox from the narcotics. Then he was sent to a monastery, and whom I, to judge Bergoglio, imposed his infamous omerta on the entire sordid and criminal incident. It pays to know powerful and influential cardinals in the Vatican who are close comrades of Bergoglio, the Pope of the poor. Is anyone still fooled by Bergoglio's penchant for poverty prattle? With socialist drivels such as, why I want a church which is poor and for the poor. Pull back the curtain of his humble poverty roadshow and watch the peep show unfold. The Bergoglian Vatican operates like the Cosa Nostra. Fear prevails, loyalty is rewarded, and the omerta is the dominating dogma. Not surprising, since cardinals who self-identified as the St. Gallen Mafia bragged about their powerful influence to elect Bergoglio as Pope. Face it, Monsignor Cocaine Capozzi has some curious and serious clout with Cardinal Coco Palmiero. Italian news reports allege that this isn't the first time Lucky Luigi Capozzi donned a pair of handcuffs for illicit drugs. Yet Capozzi's penchant for designer drugs didn't stop Bergoglio from elevating him to a prominent position in the Vatican, coupled with a luxurious apartment normally reserved for cardinals. Major breaking news story. Right? Vatican clerics partying at drug orgies on the Vatican grounds, just a snorting distance from the Pope's personal residence, is big news. Yet the Vatican gendarme, yeah, that's a good word, takes orders from the Pope and his vast media team. Someone told the police to deep six the arrest report and remain mum. Here we go again. Catholic laity do not have the right to know about this police raid or illegal and immoral activity on the grounds of the holy, unholy see. They might ask questions like, who else was in attendance when the police raided the party? Were the bishops and cardinals partying at the orgy? Were there underage minors in attendance? Were there seminarians in flagrant delicto at the orgy? What did the police photos reveal about this sordid scene? Surely the party animals, young and old, and the Capozzi caper hailed from multiple countries. Was Capozzi the only person arrested? Who supplied and paid for all the drugs and liquor? Was Capozzi charged with possession, distribution, and trafficking of an illegal substance? Disturbing the peace, contributing to the delinquencies of minors, or any number of other related crimes under the Vatican Code? Cardinal Hat waves away previous sins. The shroud of secrecy continues. The Vatican and the Vatican Press Office refused to comment on the police raid, despite the potential violation of several crimes ongoing at Capozzi's orgy pad. Forgive me, Padre, for judging criminal behavior in the Holy See, but there are a few crimes as set forth at the Vatican Criminal Code, which Bergoglio is duty-bound to uphold. Whoever, without having been authorized, cultivates, produces, manufactures, extracts, refines, sells, offers in sale seeds, distributes, brokerages, transports, supplies, sends, conveys, or dispatches in transit, or delivers for any purpose narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, as well as whoever cultivates the opium poppy, the coca bush, or the cannabis plant for the production of narcotic drugs, is punished with 6 to 20 years of imprisonment and with a fine of 26,000 to 260,000 euro. The same penalty applies to whoever possesses or purchases narcotic drugs or psychotropic substance in view of any of the activities foreseen in paragraph 1, as well as whoever manufactures, transports, or distributes of equipment, materials, or substances listed in Table 1 and Table 2, knowing that they're to be used in and for the illicit cultivation, production, or manufacture of narcotic drugs or psychotropic substances. Whenever the quantity of the substances indicates that they were destined solely for personal use, the penalty shall be 1 month to 1 year imprisonment and a fine of €1,000. The penalty shall be increased if 3 or more persons participate in the commission of the offense. These criminal statutes, folks, only deal with drug criminal activity in the Vatican. Surely more crimes are committed. More on that maybe later. Well, I can tell you the first crime that I know about was when Pope Pius XII got together with the OSS and then the CIA, Wild Bill Donovan and crew, and decided to copy what was done in China when Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong were at it, and that was to start a poppy field in Burma and use the money from the drugs, sell it to the people to finance their illicit terrorism, wars, and all those disruptions in countries where they get guerrilla groups. They had to fund it somehow, so there's one. Now you wonder why they don't get prosecuted. They've been doing this forever. The only thing you got to worry about is how to cover it up. That's what they do. And they do it pretty good. Where's the outrage in the pews, I wonder? Should we keep the secret knowledge to ourselves or shout from the rooftops the evil that has infiltrated the church? The silence that allows evil to continue to avoid a scandal can be confused with complicity. Silence that reinforces corruption only maintains the status quo and does not challenge the rampant evil in the house of God. Mysteriously, silence overcomes the loquacious Bergoglio. This seedy and troubling arrest resulted in the typical clerical resolution seen in the countless American Catholic clergy sex scandals. The offending priest is sent to a treatment and tucked away in a monastery, and no charges are filed by the police. Such is the lucky fate of Monsignor Capozzi and the Vatican's reaction. Dead cold silence. Curiously, not a word from the papal prattler who daily pontificates about everything from climate change to presidential candidates and everything in between. Yet when one of his favorite clerics gets caught in a drug-fueled orgy, Bergoglio remains silent. Dead cold silence. Where are the whistleblowers in the Vatican? Aren't they weary and troubled by all the scandals? Or are they too terrified of the tyrannical Bergoglio? So much for not being afraid. The criminal bust is surely not the first time this has happened during the Bergoglio papacy. After all, Francis, the merciful Incorporated, won't judge immoral and illegal behavior. It's so unmerciful. Remember the 300-page dossier commissioned by Pope Benedict in 2012? The investigation uncovered a massive gay network of sex, drugs, blackmail, and financial fraud. That scandalous dossier never saw the light of day. It was met with dead cold silence again. It's now buried in Francis's desk, gathering dust along with Monsignor Capozzi's police reports. One wonders, along with the cocaine, were underage boys present at the Capozzi orgy? Rumors rampant that Benedict's 300-page dossier documented child trafficking rings operating in the Vatican. Isn't Bergoglio the self-avowed champion of human trafficking victims? The laity should demand to know if there were underage males at the orgy and who solicited them. Why hasn't the Vatican released the entire investigation and police report to this criminal incident? Remember, the yearly Peter's Pence collection, when parish donations are collected for and sent directly to the Vatican? All those euros and dollars tossed in the Sunday collection basket earn the laity the right to demand answers. Exactly how is the Vatican spending your hard-earned money? For starters, Bergoglio, the Pope of the Poor, should open up the 2012 dossier and the Capozzi arrest records. The Catholic laity possesses a compelling moral and fiduciary right to know all the facets surrounding the police raid at the Capozzi apartment. Stonewall silence is unacceptable. This time has come for the Church to seek forgiveness, first from Christ. Oh, give me a break. This is coming from the Millenary. It's a news publication, this shroud of secrecy. Then from humanity for the many infidelities and betrayals of its ministers, especially those at the top of the ecclesiastical hierarchy. Nothing like that will ever happen. They're Satanists. And they're just going to cover that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that's some things we know. Imagine what we don't know. I mean, this is a sick, satanic organization at the top, and it spreads all the way into our governments. And you're seeing it play out. And as the Rothschild just said lately, we will have our new world order in 2018. And as I look on at what's happening, look at, this month alone. Now we got Jose doing circles in the Atlantic, and then now people are talking about it. It's poised to hit the East Coast, although you're not sure yet. But then they got 2 more tropical depressions getting underway. And that's not to mention, when we did that analysis yesterday of IPETGO 2, they went to great pains to make that. It's only 8 minutes long, but the stuff in there, when you really start looking, these guys have been, and that was done that video was put out in 2012. They had this thing planned out. They don't, like I told you, they don't plan daily like a daily planner. They got a century planner up, and they've been doing this for hundreds. They've been wanting this, and now you're seeing it escalate to the point where they know they got everybody. They've got their sickness going. They're going to destroy the Vatican and create this false Messiah, take over Jerusalem, the whole works. And then they're going to get rid of the countries will be divided into different sections of the world, and you won't have sovereignty anymore. And everybody will, they'll buy this story hook, line, and sinker after humanity destroys itself and all the evil people are gone. And then the Pope will raise up his hand and say, look, the Messiah is here, and come and follow us, and we'll take care of you. You're on the road to hell with that. And it's going to be the worst kind of world in the world that you'd ever want. And that's what they have planned for you. Every little thing going on, you can see it. It's just amazing. I can go story after story. How they've got it all planned out. The sectors of the United States, the fast railway. They want to keep you in big, huge, large cities. They got it divided into certain sections now. And then they don't want you to drive cars anymore. They want you to, they want to control where you go, what you do, how you look, what you say. And that's what's going to happen. And then railway plan they got going, this high-speed railway plan, really intersects with the different mega cities they want to form and push people into these mega cities while our land is being taken over. What do you think they're doing by, with all these Environmental Protection Agency laws, taking over the West, protecting the land, putting it in the name of the government? And their partner in crime, the Vatican, is right there, the Jesuits, right there, instructing them how to do all this stuff, because Trump and these people and Bush and Obama, they're not smart enough to think of these things, and neither are those leaders in China or Korea. They got a plan for them. They're like actors in a play, a script. They know what to say, know what to do, and they're given directions and they do it. And if they don't follow the directions, they're taken out of office, they're taken off the stage. Or, and these actors just don't get fired. They either get off the stage and are killed, and so many of them will not do the right thing. Don't you think, though, none of these high-level people, that includes the high-level senators, congressmen at the top that know everything, and these young guys that just get in, they learn the hard way if they don't follow along. When they find, look what happened to Sonny Bono. You think he just had a nice little skiing accident and hit a tree? They didn't do much of an investigation on that, and the injuries that were uncovered didn't look like it was just hitting a tree. And do you think any of his wife or Cher or anybody came to demand a real investigation? Hell no. That's what we're up against here. And things are really heating up, and I recommend you go to my website at bringanthonysjournal.wordpress.com, and you get some interesting stories in the next few days and in the last couple of days regarding this. And come back, because we got more on the Vatican all Friday. Yep, we got one scandal after another, don't we? And it all comes from Rome. All roads, like I say, lead to Rome, and all roads lead to this little message we're going to do for 3 minutes. Then we'll be back on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This ain't happening.
Okay, we're back for the second half hour, last half hour of the week. We'll be back, of course, next Monday on First Amendment Radio. You can also get this show on my website at Greg Anthony's journal.wordpress.com. You can get all shows going back over 12 years now, and a lot of articles, and we've progressed a long way, and now we're reaching that climax point, I think. If you believe Rothschild saying we will have our new world order by 2018, that was recently said. And with all the clamor now, they're rattling, the war strategies are already in place. They're just waiting for the right time. And wouldn't it be interesting that they're waiting so that when this really, the EMP systems and the war gets really going, there'll be no electric in the Midwest in the winter. And imagine living in Fargo when the electricity's out and you got no power. That's going to get people out of there quick. So, watch out. The next few months are going to be quite interesting. Well, back to the Jesuits and the Vatican. And this guy, John Rappaport, I see his articles out there. He says he was a friend of Tupper Saucy's, as I was. He'd been on my show several times. I talked to him on the phone before he passed away in 2008 or 9. And, of course, he wrote the book Rulers of Evil, which we talked about on the phone and on my show. And he was always interested in keeping that research going and getting people to do more, because he really uncovered some interesting things regarding the formation of our country and how the Jesuits were behind it, things left out of our history books. So I thought I'd go over this article written by Rappaport today. No, on the 13th, by the way. And he says, my late friend Tupper wrote a shocking book titled Rulers of Evil. It was published in 2001, and it's about the Jesuits, and it's about the influence on the founding of the United States. It's about much more, folks. He's given you just a brief overview. Not the influence, but the strategy, how they actually planned it, what their goals were, and how they originally created the Constitution so they could take it over, so they could really get the Catholic Church into this country. And once they grew, they could take over, and you won't have freedom of religion anymore. Now, he was a brilliant researcher among his other talents. He was a musician, a composer, a very talented gentleman. While making his case in the book, he lets the reader know when the points of reference are circumstantial, and allows the reader, folks, and I'm saying this, to judge it on his own and to research more. And it's the kind of book, and I wanted to say this, that you don't have to read it all the way through. You can go from piece to piece to piece, chapter to chapter to chapter, and at your leisure, pick out some really great information. He was a man who knew how to assess degrees of evidence. One of the most shocking facts about this highly controversial book, see, and I didn't think about this, but it's an interesting point, was its publication by HarperCollins, a major house. And I wondered, how did he get that into a major publishing house? And I'll give you my thought in a second, but let me see what Rappaport says about it. The feat was somehow accomplished by Agent Peter Fleming. Peter did what no other agent could have done. He pulled off a magic trick for the ages. I'm sure once the book was in print, the people at Harper looked at each other and said, what did we just do? How did this happen? Peter Fleming must have hypnotized us. I offer a group of quotes from the book, says Rappaport. We can do this without comment. The quotes are meant to attract your interest, so you'll find a copy of Rulers of Evil and read it. And I've done that many times on my show, and talked about it many, many times, and I really recommend you get it. You can get it free on the internet if you search hard enough. You can get a PDF version. But anyway, I've got a hard copy of it. I still, I want to keep a few hard copy books. When they get rid of them all, I want to, say this is what we used to do when we really read. We didn't just look on a digital computer. We actually touched the book. But anyway, that's an interesting point, though. And let me give you my take on how it got published. Nothing gets by these people without approval. And I believe the Jesuits approved the publication of this book for a reason. Now, why would they do that? Why? Because once that book was published, their hyenas that worked for them, even those who were anti-Vatican people at the time, who were talking against the Jesuits, came out against Tupper Saucy. Oh yeah, they lambasted him. Some of the more prominent anti-Vaticanites, who I found at least one I know, really did a number on me. But I realized this gentleman was on their side, and many of these people came out against Tupper. And I think it was a strategy. He was going to get this done somewhere. So to put it out on a mainstream HarperCollins like that, put it out like that, I think it was done so that people would say, this is impossible, this guy is off his rocker. And so because he was doing that, because of that, it hasn't had, it never got that play that a book should get with this kind of magnitude, this kind of information. It never really did get it. And I think it was a strategy, and they were, wouldn't have let this thing happen or published there unless they really wanted it to be out in the public eye. Okay, let's look at some quotes from the book, and maybe this will inspire you to read it. And this is about the Knights Templars, the Vatican, and the Freemasons working together. During the night of December 16, 1773, a gang of Indians climbed aboard certain ships in Boston Harbor, ripped open 342 of the East India Company's tea chests, and threw overboard their contents valued at about $90,000. Well, they looked like Indians, and witnesses thought they were Indians, but the big open secret was that they were Freemasons in disguise. Perhaps the most succinct statement on the subject appears in respected Masonic historian Arthur Edward Waite's new encyclopedia of Freemasonry. He says this: the Boston Tea Party was entirely Masonic, carried out by members of the St. John's Lodge during an adjourned meeting. The East India Company was a major subsidizer of the Jesuit mission to Beijing. So, folks, and I'm going to say this, the Jesuits have been in China a long, long time. And they really control the leaders of that country. And the Jesuits, in turn, interceded with Oriental monarchs to secure lucrative commercial favors for the company, including monopolies on tea, spices, saltpeter for explosives, silks, and the world's opium trade. Indeed, the company appears to owe its very existence to the Society of Jesus. Freemasonry was the natural, the reasonable, the only intelligent way for the Roman Catholic Church to control A, the ongoing affront of Protestantism, B, the increase in divine right kings heading their own national churches independent of Vatican control, and C, the incredible explosion of international mercantilism, like the aquatic creature whose mouth resembles a comfortable resting place to its prey. The Masonic lodges were a sagacious recycling of the old Templar infrastructure into a dynamic spiritual economic brotherhood that gave Protestant Jews, Buddhists, Muslims, agnostics, and anyone else an opportunity to build a better life outside of Roman Catholicism, yet still under the Church's superintending eye. Of the 2.5 million enumerated inhabitants in 1787, the Roman Catholic population consisted of no more than 16,000 in Maryland, 7,000 in Pennsylvania, 1,500 in New York, and 200 in Virginia. Wow, folks, look how they've grown since. That was their plan. Freedom of religion in the Constitution, then we can sneak our way in here and take it over. The highest master of the Masonic Lodge received commandments from an unknown superior, a superior whose will the masters whose whole struggle up the degrees had trained him to obey without question. What the masters never realized was that the mysterious personage, as we shall examine in more detail later, was in fact none other than the Black Pope, the head of the Jesuits. That was Lorenzo Ricci. Remember, we've talked about that many times? Then, as the addendum to its closing statements, the Council of Trent, 1545 to 1563, recommended that the Jesuits should be given price of place over members of other orders as preachers and professors. It was at Trent that the Roman Catholic Church began marching to the beat of the Black Papacy, the Jesuits. Fascism may be an ugly word to many, but its stately emblem is apparently offensive to no one. The emblem of fascism, a pair of them, commands the wall above and behind the speaker's rostrum in the chamber of the House of U.S. Representatives. They're called fasci, and I can think of no reason for them to be there other than to declare fascistic nature of American Republican democracy. A fascist is a Roman device. Actually, it originated with the ancient Etruscans, from whom the earliest Romans derived their religious jurisprudence nearly 3,000 years ago. It's an axe head whose handle is a bundle of rods tightly strapped together by a red sinew. It symbolizes the ordering of priestly functions into a single infallible sovereign, an autocrat who could require life and limb of his subjects. If the fasci is entwined with laurel, like the pair on the House of Representatives wall, it signifies Caesarian military power. The Romans called this infallible sovereign Pontifex Maximus, supreme bridge builder. Boy, don't we have a supreme builder in the White House right now? No building can rightly be called a capitol unless it's a temple of Jupiter. the great father god of Rome, who ruled heaven with his thunderbolts and nourished the earth with his fertilizing rains. If it was a Capitolium, it belonged to Jupiter and his priests. Jupiter's mascot was the eagle, which the founding fathers of the United States made their mascot as well. Consider the land known today as the District of Columbia bore the name Rome. In 1663, property records in the branch of the Potomac River that bordered Rome on the south was called the Tiber. This information was reported in the 1902 edition of the Catholic Encyclopedia's article on Daniel Carroll. The article specifically declaring itself of interest to Catholics in 1902 edition was deleted from the New Catholic Encyclopedia in 1967. You know something? And then we move on here, and for instance, Saucy, he does point out that he believes, in a sense, I remember talking to Tupper, he said that behind-the-scenes manipulations have resulted in the government that people deserve because they're not paying attention. For instance, Saucy points out that the result of the Dred Scott decision, which was supposed to abolish slavery, actually did the opposite. First, slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment. Then the 14th Amendment, we talked about this the other day, created a new national citizenship. Unlike state citizenship, which was denied to Negroes, national citizenship was available to anyone as long as they subjected themselves to the jurisdiction of the United States. That is, the federal government, whose seat is the District of Columbia, Rome. What is so remarkably Jesuit here about the scheme that proceeded out of Roger Taney's opinion? Taney was the U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice who wrote it, is that slavery was sustained by the very amendment that supposedly abolished it. Amendment 13 provides the abolition of involuntary servitude except as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. Saucy contends that in our time, the federally regulated communications media, with their continually exciting celebration of violence and drug use, have subtly but vigorously induced youthful audiences to play on the minefield of complementary criminal statutes. The fruit of this collaboration is a burgeoning national prison population of men and women enslaved constitutionally. American slavery has become a permanent institution. In describing the origins of the Society of Jesus founded by Loyola, Ignatius Loyola, Saucy delves into the organization's militaristic nature, its extreme oath of the obedience, which he reproduces in the book from a Library of Congress document, and the Kabbalistic significance of their rituals and mythology. And we talk about that many times, and I've brought the oath of the Jesuits to you on a number of occasions. Now, Jesuit casuistry, writes Saucy, is known as the process of applying moral principles falsely in deciding the rights or wrongs of a case. The word casuistry comes from the cases. W.W. Webster, the online dictionary, equates casuistry with rationalization, to cause something to seem reasonable, to provide plausible but untrue reasons for conduct. In early 1999, President Clinton's biographer, David Marinus, could be seen remarking on old talk shows that the president owed his formidable skills as a criminal defendant to his training in casuistry at Georgetown University. Georgetown, of course, is the preeminent Jesuit school, still administered by the Society of Jesus and the foremost educator of U.S. policymakers, lawmakers, and federal bureaucrats. The great Jesuit casuist Antonio Escobar pardoned evildoers as long as it was committed in pursuit of lofty goals, continues Saucy. Purity of intention, he declared in 1627, may justify actions which are contrary to moral code and human laws. Now, let me say this. Wasn't this perfect justification for the New World Order coming into being? You know what they're doing? They're saying, listen, in the pursuit of a lofty goal of the New World Order and a better world, it is justified that we kill all of you heretics. The great Jesuit, thus Jesuit logic remains the foundation for rationalized, morally repugnant, and ethically questionable behavior in today's society. Herman Busenbaum ratified Escobar with his own famous maxim, cum finis est listis, and it's in Latin. Media, okay, if the end is legal, the means are legal. Escobar and Buzenbaum boiled down to the essential doctrine of terrorism. The ends justify the means. State terrorism, of course, is not excluded from this dictum. During the American Revolution, the superior general of the Jesuits, also called the Black Pope, was Lorenzo Ricci, pronounced Ricci. Saucy credits him with translating the most celebrated treatise on the war ever published, Joseph Marie Amiet's Sun Tzu, usually called The Art of War. The French edition of Sun Tzu's 13 articles concerning military art was published by Amiot in 1772. Since Amiot was a Jesuit priest under obedience to General Ricci, Saucy maintains that Ricci is the author of Amiot's Sun Tzu, based on a remark by Malachi Martin that a book written by a Jesuit due to the obedience factor can be presumed in essence to be the work of his superior general. Saucy also maintains that Ricci was responsible for setting the stage for the American Revolution by using the Draconian Stamp Act to manipulate the colonists into fomenting the American Revolution as well as the establishment of the Republic. His speculation goes far afield, however, in ascribing a sinister motivation to the founding of America itself. For instance, his conjecture that Ricci came to the United States to instigate the signing of the Declaration of Independence has no basis in perfect fact, but there are things that we have found out, he did too, that put Ricci there. So I believe there are facts. Might have been so Ricci comes over here even though he was declared dead at the time, and we've gone over that story. In addition, Saucy's exclusive emphasis on these negative aspects is an ipso facto denial of an intrinsically American optimism and idealism which has survived despite any machinations of the Jesuits. In fact, the author's exclusive reliance on canon scripture and his neglect of spiritual warfare are the primary stumbling blocks in his final analysis, though his grasp of historical facts must be commended. That's Rappaport's talking. Now, he leaves, for instance, he points out that the first American flag hoisted by George Washington himself on January 2nd, 1776 was the flag of the notorious East India Company, the prime opium trafficking agency of the Crown, consisting of 13 alternating red and white stripes and a double cross or Union Jack in the upper left. This flag has an occult significance which has been rarely described. Saucy also does an impressive Kabbalistic interpretation of the U.S. Great Seal. Saucy leaves readers with much to think about. His conclusions may or not be totally in your frame of thinking, but his literalist interpretation of Scripture remains an important historical work for the understanding of these current events. Without knowing the history of Roman religion in Babylon, priestcraft with its pantheon of gods and goddesses, as well as the subsequent Catholic religion with its idolatry of Jesus, it's impossible to gauge the significance of contemporary government, secular authority, and the spiritual warfare of modern life. Rulers of Evil is a very rare book about understanding America's history in total context, folks. Let me say this, in total context of the spiritual and the political working together, which is totally left out of our history books for a reason. Because one Jesuit general said years ago, back in the 1600s, a Jesuit general by the name of Luigi, I believe, Tamburini, he stated this. He said, we control the, and I'm going to paraphrase, we control the world in China, all over, from sea to shining sea, the entire world, from Borgo Santo Spirito Cinque in Rome, and nobody knows that we do it. That's the secret of the Jesuits, deception. Never get in the, stay in the background. Have people working for you. The minions, they have such power here through the people that in our government and other in banking and business that work together with them. That, do you believe that what Rothschild, one of the old Rothschilds just said is true? That we will have the New World Order in 2018. So what does that mean? That means in 2017 there's got to be a lot of chaos. in many different ways that we talked about on this show. So, I believe that Saucy's Insights are really worth reading, and you should go and get that book. You can get it free online, and really, there's some parts in there I think you'll enjoy. And I remember when I was speaking with him, he said, "Greg, just keep doing more research on this, and see what more you can uncover, because this New World Order is moving fast and furious." And that was back in 2007 we were talking like that. Look at now, 10 years later. And there's a lot on our plates to think about. And so, if you Google Rulers of Evil, Tupper Saucy, you can get, I know there's a PDF version free. You can find that somewhere. And if not, you can also order the hard copy book. That's still in print, I believe. And it's really well worth reading, and it's a book that you'll use in the future to open up your mind to other things. What else can we figure out? How can we show? There's some interesting facts that have been uncovered proving that Lorenzo Ricci actually was here and should be considered a founding father. And those facts even come from one of the most important people of the Revolutionary War time, and that was Charles Thompson, who was the recorder of records, the man of truth they called him, and he knew everything behind the scenes, and he was the man recording all of the Continental Congress and all the meetings of the founding fathers. Why did they call them founding fathers? Isn't that interesting? Because Lorenzo Ricci was a Jesuit priest, and he's a father. So they said, well, let's just call them founding fathers. And he should be considered one of our founding fathers. But Charles Thompson even talks about it. And then we have a book that was written, I can't remember the name of it, that documents this strange professor talking with Franklin during that period of time. And all the timing works here. If you look at everything, the demise of the Jesuits, and then their resurrection in 1812 or 22, after America got its feet wet and was going strong. Interesting stuff. And there's a lot more to uncover. And that's what's important. Ask questions. There's so many questions. Better ask questions that are hard to answer and remain unanswered than to just complacently go through life. Well, we're not going to complacently go through the weekend. We're going to have a good weekend. I hope you do too. And we'll be back Monday on the Investigative Journal. Have a good weekend.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.